Hi, in today's Finding Your Stride, I'm thinking all about OKRs, objectives and key results. And really this is a massively important topic for me at the moment as I'm finding my stride as a new small business owner. So how do we measure what matters to us, especially when that can really seem to be quite intangible? That's what OKRs are really designed to do. So often when we start thinking about, well, what have I been doing? We think very much about the tasks that we've done. They're like the outputs of the work. So this month for me that's just gone, September, has been hugely busy, going to lots of events. I've spoken at lots of them. I've met people in person, virtually, made lots of LinkedIn content. So those are all my outputs. They're the tasks that I've been doing. But actually, to get some proper measures of how successful have I been doing those things, actually what I really need to think about are the outcomes of doing all of that work. So that winds me back to my purpose. Why am I doing this? And at this stage of my business, what I'm really aiming to do is to grow the business. Of course, to gain more connections and so I find meaningful work, but also to gain collaborations because I want to do that work with associates, with other people. And ultimately that's important to me personally, but it's also very important for diversity, equity and inclusion work to be bringing in diverse perspectives and considering things from far more angles than just the one that we ourselves can bring to it. So then, if I think about the outcomes of my tasks, this gives me something that I can work with much more easily. So what matters? What have I been aiming for? First up, just forming those new connections, but ones that are a bit meaningful, not just about counting people, but where have I actually had a conversation where we've connected and maybe reached some new understanding together. Then these connections develop into collaborations. So maybe we arrange to make some event together, a podcast, do some speaking. And actually those can then lead to more longer term strategic pieces like forming a working group, perhaps to be pitching for some funding or putting together a proposal. And ultimately, or down the line, all of this will then lead to winning new business, one of the KPIs of the business overall. So once I've been able to articulate those outcomes that I'm aiming for, the measures then flow much more easily. Now, throughout my engineering career, measures has always been pretty important, and much of what we do in engineering is pretty straightforward to measure in comparison. Although, of course, if we're looking at the success of our projects, we then need to think about those intangibles there too. And as a product manager, that was very much the case when I was doing that role. Now, as a diversity, equity and inclusion practitioner, actually one of the things I love most about my work is to translate some of those things that can seem quite intangible in our culture into meaningful measures that help us know whether we're making progress. So the context, I think, as you can see, is really key. Why we're doing what we're doing really matters. So my advice for you, if you're just getting started with measuring your outcomes, is to do just that. Focus on the outcomes you're trying to achieve. Think about, what does success look like when I'm doing this? What are the steps on the way? What do I see happening to know that it's working? And then from there, your measures will flow.